You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword.
Pro tip, everyone should bring a microphone to their work holiday parties.
It was a big hit.
Because we did. And we interviewed people, and they hated it.
We loved it, which is actually all that matters, in my personal opinion.
I think some people enjoyed it. Chelsea and I had our work holiday party last night. It was the first time we had seen everyone in a while.
A while being like 2 years.
Yeah. And we missed harassing people. Because this podcast is our only outlet now, but, you know.
I know.
It's not the same as that face-to-face
I know. We're harassing the void, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're still, you know, recovering from that. And not in a, like, hangover way, in a...
energy way.
Yeah.
We gave a lot of energy last night that we haven't given in a long time. It took a lot out of us. We were on all night, in character, performing, you know, the whole shebang.
Yeah, wearing matching outfits. But anyway,
we can't get too carried away with how amazing we were last night.
That's our other life. This is our second life.
It is.
Two Girls, One Crossword, your favorite weekly Podword Crosscast. I'm Grace Topinka.
I'm Chelsea Rowan. Thanks again for tuning in. We always love to have you.
We do.
I feel like I always like to add like some like kind of radio sounding like tag, like thanks for joining us. But I don't know if it actually lands, but I like doing it.
If you like doing it, then I think it's important. It's only a couple words.
There we go.
We can spare them.
Thank you. Thank you. We can't spare like 2 hours of ranting about Shrek, but you know.
No. That stays on the cutting room floor. Should we just jump right into our Pollapalooza?
Yes.
So we asked on Twitter, would you accept Baba Yaga's help? Which was Chelsea's topic from last week.
Ooh.
You know, and she is reliable in stories, but, you know, you have to do a lot to get her help. Would you really trust her? Because in some way she's perceived as evil. In some way she's perceived as a feminist icon. But 88% of voters said yes, they would accept her help.
Yes.
Only 12% said no.
I feel like if it's between thinking somebody's evil or a feminist icon, I think rule of thumb, just go feminist icon at that point.
I think that's safe.
Evan? No, was it Evan who commented?
On the poll?
Yeah.
It was Evan Kalish.
Oh, Evan. Okay, yes. Evan Kalish commented and asked if it was a Mandalorian that we were talking about. And I will admit that I had to Google what that was because...
Oh, like Baby Yoda?
Yeah, I couldn't tell if he thought we had a spelling mistake, or I believe there is a character called Baba Yaga in some Star Wars spinoff, whether it's one of the books or the graphic novels or, I don't know, even one of the movies. But no, it has nothing to do with Star Wars. Guaranteed.
We know nothing about that. We cannot legally be bound to that.
No. We did do a topic on droids once, though.
We did, and how George Lucas trademarked it.
It's true.
It was an issue for Android.
So, true. But yeah, no. Baba Yaga, we're talking about Russia here. Russia.
We're always talking about Russia.
I would trust her. I mean, I don't know if I trust her, but I'd definitely ask her for help, I think.
I would trust her help. Would I trust her to look after my kitten? Probably.
Actually.
Well, I don't know.
It's on the table still for discussion. Speaking of discussions, I have a corrections corner this week. A little corrections corner. A listener, I was going to say a viewer. Maybe they do view the podcast. I don't know. Do you watch on YouTube or do you listen on not YouTube? Anyway, a lovely listener named Emma wrote to us. Emma writes to us sometimes, helps us with the corrections moments because, you know, we're only human. Anyway, so last week I was, you know, complaining about how dense of a topic billiards would have been and why I didn't end up choosing it to be my topic last week. And I was talking about the term English in relation to billiards. And I believe I was saying that English is a type of billiards that people play. And Emma wrote to me and let me know that English is actually a term. The term English is used to mean tailspin. It's like a type of shot in billiards. So like it makes the cue ball or whatever ball spin a certain way, I believe. But I will say that English billiards is a specific type of cue sport that is separate from like what you and I might play if we went to like a pool hall, you know.
Which we would never do.
Which I have done, and it's a lot of fun, but it's not something I do often. And honestly, like if you were like, let's go to play billiards or pool, I would just play the one where you put the balls in the triangle and then you hit it with the white ball. That's what I would do.
Just keep doing that over and over again?
Over and over and over again. Anyway, yes, thank you for writing, Emma. Always lovely to hear from you. And that's my little corrections corner this week.
There she is, folks.
There I am. So I think we should move into hits and shits.
Let's do it.
Okay.
You're crazy.
Do you want to start?
I guess I could start with a little, just go down the list. The Monday, December 6th, New York Times by Emily Rourke. I just like 27 across, crying, ... or laughing hysterically. It's in tears.
Yes, I liked that one as well.
A hot second. And then to see this in the New York Times, 40 across, NSFW stuff. Smut. The New York Times on a Monday.
Can you believe it?
What is Will Shortz talking about at the breakfast table?
From that puzzle, I also liked 41 across. Sauna plus massage at a spa, perhaps, and it's package deal. And it just makes me want to go to a spa. It's like, it's that time of year, you know?
It's that time of year. It's
a
getting
warm
cold.
soak. You loved it. You love it. When I was in New Mexico, we went to a spa and we did the soaking. It was amazing.
Ugh. Oh my yas.
Amazing.
I need a hot tub. That's all I need in my life.
You should get one of those personal hot tubs.
That you like put in the bathtub?
Single sitters. You just put it in your living room.
Yeah. Think about it. I feel like it takes up a lot of room.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd rather just become friends with someone who has parents in the suburbs that has a hot tub.
Or I'll write to the condo association. I'll get everybody on board. We'll
hot
get a
tub
condo
in the courtyard.
In the courtyard.
Hot
it's not a big ask.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like, but here's the thing. I feel like if I had a hot tub, I would use it all the time. But I feel like a lot of people who get hot tubs think that, and then they don't end up using it.
I know. I would actually use it all the time.
That's
genuinely.
what we think. They probably thought that too.
Grace, you and I love hot tubs, though.
That's true. Anyways.
Anyway, moving on.
We got
also from that puzzle, though, the Emily Rourke New York Times, I learned a word, 5 down, sisterly. Sororal, which I guess is like where the word sorority comes from. But I didn't realize that was like an adjective, sororal. Anyway. And then I like to see 25 down, occasion for an egg roll, and the answer was Easter.
Yes, I remembered.
I did a topic on egg rolling. It was episode 38. Easter Island Egg Hunt, I believe it was called or something. Egg rolling. Interesting. Very interesting. That's it. That's all I got to say.
I egg roll every day. Okay. I liked the Tuesday New York Times by Margaret Sequel. Let's see. 9 down, Fall Guys, ? Stuntmen.
Nice.
I was almost going to do that as my topic, but it's kind of all over the place. I also liked 11 down, Pleasant French City. And the answer was Nice, which looks like nice.
Nice.
And 48
nice.
across. Yeah. 48 across, aircraft that's 1% full, ? Private jet.
So good. I loved that one too.
Yes.
The theme was really good. It was 57 across, some Xmas card attire, or a hint to 18, 23, 37, and 48 across, and the answer was matching PJs. So all of the themed answers, one of which was private jet, had 2 words, and it was P and J. So another answer from the theme, 18 across, one remedy for a hangover, supposedly. Pickle juice, which I didn't know. But
yes, I know people who do that religiously.
Really?
Picklebacks.
Oh.
It's like taking a shot of pickle juice after taking a shot. It's supposed to help with the hangover. I could be totally wrong on this, but I feel like it's a Russian thing.
Somebody tell us.
I don't know.
See, we always talk about Russia on this podcast. I'm telling you right now. You can also use pickle juice to marinate your chicken before you fry it. Seriously.
Well, I don't have pickle juice laying around. So what am I supposed to do?
Whose
because
fault
I
is
don't
that?
eat pickles.
Weirdo. I love pickles.
I feel like in theory I would like them, but I've just never gotten into them. And you know what? I think, like, I just think about the jar of pickles we used to have in the work refrigerator, and everyone would just like stick their dirty hands in there and like get their finger gunk all over the pickle juice.
In retrospect, disgusting. At the time,
Yeah.
I was one of those. Actually, I would use a fork. I would use a fork most of the time.
Yeah, but you used a fork, but that didn't mean other people did.
I know. It was like
That's
the guy
the
who would
ice
shove
machine.
their hand
People put
into
their hands in the ice. Anyways,
bonkers.
can't get into that. But all right, if I ever get my hands on some pickle juice, I'll try that.
Okay. What did I like? What did I like? Oh, also from that puzzle, I liked 31 down. Iconic encouragement from Tim Gunn on Project Runway. And the answer is Make It Work, which that was a staple show of my childhood.
I never got into it, but I did know that.
Make it work.
Line.
Make it work. Make it work. Tim Gunn. Gotta love it. I did the Saturday, December 4th USA Today by Brooke Husick and Amanda Rafkin. I liked some of the clues and answers. 17 across, acted, frozen, and freeze tag. The answer was stood still. Just interesting. 14 down, sibling with the same DNA. Identical twin. Grace and I have been talking about twins.
Yeah, we basically think that if you are, especially if you're an identical twin and you don't tell that to people that you meet like within the first, week of knowing them, then it's shady.
It is shady.
It's a shocking thing to find out about someone that you think you know.
It
that
is.
All of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, my twin. And you're like, what? There's another you running around?
You can't, if somebody doesn't disclose their twin to you, you can't trust them. And I feel bad saying that to people with twins that kind of like don't want to be tied to their twin, but especially identical twins. You're going to tell me that there's another version of you walking out there somewhere that if I accidentally run into them in the mall, I think it's you. And they're like, oh no, sorry, that's my twin sister, identical twin. And I'm like, do I even know you? Do I even actually know you? Because to be fair, you're basically just a split egg if you're an identical twin. So do I know you? I only know half of you.
You are your own people.
Whatever.
I don't want to lump them together. I feel like that's a big issue with twins. It's just like
it's why they don't disclose information. But I'm just saying.
Do you think that our generation is like specifically obsessed with twins because of some media but I feel like twins have always been around, like in books and movies. But like for me, I was obsessed with twins because I think the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap, which I understand is a remake, and like the Sweet Valley Twins books.
Oh yeah, and then Mary-Kate and Ashley.
Yeah.
I know.
Is it just us, like specifically? I was convinced that I had an identical twin that like my parents didn't tell me about, and I was going to run into her somewhere.
I begged to be sent to like sleepaway camp so that I could find a twin. Seriously. I think twins have been like a big thing throughout all of time, but twins used to be like bad luck, especially if like twins were born into like royal families, bad news bears, So it wasn't always fun games for twins.
Well, if you're an identical twin, you listen to our podcast, please write to us. Well, if you want to.
No, you
it would
have
make
to.
us very happy.
You have to.
Should we talk about the Thursday New York Times by Alexander Liebeskind?
Yes.
Liebeskind, that we did together?
Yes, I think this was a debut puzzle.
Was it? Well, I feel like there were some that I liked from here. I liked the theme, but first I want to talk about the opener that neither of us liked.
Yeah.
It was one across, brave blank lion, and the answer was as a, which you see in crosswords every once in a while, but I feel like it's such an awkward, it's usually Phil.
Yeah.
Because it's so weird it looks like Asa or Asa, but it's brave.
It's a very weird opener. It's not a very strong opener.
Yeah, for a Thursday.
Yeah.
But I did like the theme, although it was kind of confusing the way it was written. So these are some of the themed answers or questions. 18 across. Film adaptation with ... acquire arriving at the airport. And so it's and then it says 2016, and the answer was La La Landing, like La La Land, La La Landing. And another one was 24 across ... a room in an environmentally friendly hotel, 2018, and the answer was green booking. We had 39 across ... a triceratops trying to find a spot for its car, 1993, Jurassic Parking. But only the first one was italicized.
Right. Why was that?
Well, I think because it started with, all the other ones started with ... And the first one said film adaptation with ...
Oh, maybe that's why. But still, why?
I guess, why wouldn't they put film adaptation with all of them? I guess they want us to know.
Yeah, I guess I still don't understand
together.
why it needed to be italicized either way. Anyway, if you know, maybe it's something we don't understand with crosswords and like how it's constructed, but like, why is that italicized and the others aren't?
And
I did
why
like
is
the theme,
only the first one have the in-film adaptation? Well, my favorite one from it, though, was 600 Across, A Movement to Make Invoices Illegal, 2003. It was Kill Billing.
Very good. That was really good.
Yeah. But some other ones I liked that weren't for the theme was Two Down, One on the Case, ? It took us a little bit to get this. It was Stair, like a staircase.
Yes.
And then just, learning something new, 41 Down, Dogs in Tibetan Monasteries once. Pugs.
Hello.
Did not know that.
No idea.
And then another shit that we have complained about multiple times anytime we see it in the crossword was 58 Down, One's parents slangily with the. The answer was olds. New York
Who
Times
says
wants
this?
to think the olds is a slang for parents. I feel like we've asked before. It could be a regional thing. I have never heard that in my life.
Never in my life.
Crossword.
Yeah, it's a crossword thing. Definitely. I don't know. It's weird. I liked the Wednesday, December 8th, Philip Koski puzzle. I liked the theme, but I think I was a little frustrated on what the theme was based off of. So here's the theme. 68 across, with 66 across, director's cry, or a hint to 20, 37, and 58 across. So the two answers, 68 across and 66 across, read out to be, it's a rap.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've never on set heard a director say, it's a rap. First of all, the assistant director is the one who would say, that's a rap. And they would say, that's a rap. The director would say, cut. It's a little nitpicky, but it was tricky. It was confusing for me because when you actually work on set or something, like, and you're like, okay, the director's cry, what would they actually say? Be like, that's a rap, I guess, but the AD would actually say that. Mm-hmm. It makes it difficult to actually fill in the crossword because it's just not actually right. But the theme was fun based off of this. So basically, it's just like longer answers, and the beginning and end wrapped the word it's. So for an example, 20 across, what intellectual rivals engage in? And the answer was a battle of wits. So ITS is at the very end, it's, and then it wraps around to a battle of wits. It's a battle, like that. Another one, 58 across, mid-19th century Russian ruler described as autocracy personified. And the answer was Tsar Nicholas I. So I is the last letter of the clue, and then TSA is the beginning of it. So I wraps to the beginning of the word Tsar, so it's wrapping around. And I liked that. And also, if you remember my episode on Fabergé eggs, the reason we have Fabergé eggs and why they're so famous and like expensive and amazing is because of Tsar Nicholas I. Okay, so he's the one who started giving the eggs to his mother, or his wife and his mother, for Easter. Mm-hmm. And then I learned something along with like the pug thing we learned in the last puzzle, the Thursday puzzle. 52 across, dogs that were once samurai companions, Akitas.
Yeah,
very cute. I'm like, okay. I did this puzzle today, I think, so I might have done that as my topic had I done this puzzle earlier, but I did not. But Akitas.
I thought about doing pugs and Akitas as my topic too, but I didn't.
She didn't.
Well, I kind of did Akita, but not necessarily the samurai thing. I did dog breeds.
Yeah. I think for that, I would have done samurai, probably, or like talked about samurai and Akitas together or something. But yeah, that's all I got.
I liked this one from the USA Today, the December 10th, Odds and Ends by Malika Honda, edited by Amanda Rafkin. It was the middle clue that went all the way across. 37 across, move on before this gets awkward, in quotes. And the answer was, don't make it weird. I just thought that was a cute,
nice,
full crosser.
Very good. Does that mean it's time for us to flip the coin?
Flip the coin, whether you like it or not. Let's see. You'll get if heads will come first.
We'll see. All right, I'm flipping the coin now. Heads. First time in a long time.
Who knew? I spoke it into existence. You're welcome. Manifestation.
Thank you. My topic comes from the December 5th USA Today by Zausching Bernickel. 25 across, blank island. Turtle. So Turtle Island. And I had no idea what this was. So, of course, I Googled it. Mm-hmm. And a couple results came up for, like, real places in the world that were, like, called Turtle Island. Like, there's an island in Lake Erie or something, or I don't know. But I didn't think that that's what the USA Today was referencing. I believe that they are referencing an indigenous creation story. So I will be talking about Turtle Island and some other creation stories today.
Oh, wait, I think I've heard this before. Well, turtles come up a lot.
Yes.
In different things.
We've talked about, I believe we talked about a creation story with a spider, you might have. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That came up in my research a little bit, but let's get into it. Okay. So, like I said, I'll start talking about Turtle Island and some other creation stories, but first I'm going to do like a definition of creation stories. A creation story, also sometimes called a creation myth, is a symbolic narrative of how the world began and how people first came to inhabit it. And the word myth, there's some like discussion on whether or not this should be called a myth or it should just be called a story, because depending on what culture you're from, you may believe less in like a metaphorical representation of the story and more of a literal understanding of creation. So I'm going to do those words interchangeably, but no shade to any one culture out there if you do literally believe that this is how the world was created. Anyway, so creation myths share a number of features. They are often considered sacred accounts, and you can find them in literally or nearly all religious traditions. They are all stories with plot and characters who are either deities, human-like figures, or animals who can speak and easily transform themselves. They are often set in a dim, non-specific past. So they say before or ago, or there's a religious scholar that defined that time or named it. What's it called? In that time, quote, but in Latin. And then these stories address questions that are deeply meaningful to any given society, and it reveals their central worldview and framework for the self-identity of a specific culture. So once you learn a culture's or society's creation story, it kind of actually tells you a lot about how that society evolved through time, and why they may have certain traditions or beliefs or societal norms that vary from a different culture, for instance. And creation myths or stories usually come about through oral tradition, and there's often many versions of any given creation myth within any given culture. So through my research, I was researching a bunch of different creation stories, and I found very different versions of a lot of them, and I just kind of picked one. So if any of these are your creation myths or stories, and you want me to tell your version, and I kind of like mess it up a little bit, or I might have told a different version of your version or something, just write to me and I'll share it on Corrections Corner. But before I get into what creation stories I researched, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 different classifications of creation stories. And this was developed by 2 University of Chicago scholars on religion, or historians, Dr. Marcia Eliade and Dr. Charles E. Long came up with these 5 classifications. And there are other lists about how creation stories are classified, but we're going to stick with this one. So the first is ex nihilo, which basically means from nothing. So this is the version of creation stories where creation happens through a thought, word, dream, or bodily secretions of a divine being. So basically, God created the world from nothing is this version of a creation story. It's central to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, among others, but those are the big 3 that you and I are familiar with. The substance of creation springs from within the creator, okay? So a creator may or may not be existing in physical surroundings. They're just existing in a void sometimes, like a vacuum, such as darkness, sometimes what they call primordial water or primeval water, or just like mist, vapor. So the creator exists within this void and creates from within. They do not use the void to create. So that's what ex nihilo is.
Okay.
From nothing. The next is creation from chaos. So here, first of all, the word chaos doesn't mean like, it means disorder. So that's what it means. It means things aren't in order. They're out of order. They're chaotic. So initially, there is nothing but a void or shapeless expanse, right? And within this shapeless expanse, there is usually a mist or vapor or water, and the world is made from them. So chaos is in direct contrast with order. So chaos equals oblivion equals evil, whereas order equals cosmos equals good. So the act of creation is bringing order from disorder. And in the cultures that have creation myths that are created from chaos, they often believe in more of a cyclical nature of creation. So we start from disorder, created from disorder into order, and then we fall back into disorder once again, and it's a cyclical nature, which is kind of interesting. The next is world parent. The essential idea is that the world is born from a parent, and I don't mean born like vaginal canal, born like created from the parent. Let's get into it. So there are two different types of world parent myths. The first, in the time before creation, there are two parents connected or entwined with one another. The creation takes place when they are pulled apart. The two parents are commonly identified as sky, which is usually male, and earth, which is usually female. So they're so tightly bound up that no other offspring can emerge. The myths depict creation as the result of a sexual union to serve for the genealogical records of the rest of the gods that come forth. So you got your parents all bound up, you rip them apart, you have sky and earth. Now that they're apart, they can have sex and give birth to all the other gods that rule all the other parts of the world. So that's world parent myth option number 1. Option number 2. Creation happens from the dismembered parts of the body of the first being. So the very first creature to exist in the time before creation, you would then rip their body into pieces, and their body becomes the mountains, the river, the sun, the moon, the ocean, the birds, etc. And in that version of the world parent myth, there's an emphasis placed on natural importance or animism, like the importance of the natural world, because the world was created from the first being. The next is called emergence. So this is when creators pass through a series of worlds and metamorphoses until reaching the present world. Essentially, humanity and the world as we know it emerged from another world. The previous world is usually considered a womb, so Mother Earth, and then the act of emerging is the birth of the world, and usually the birth is attended by another god, most of the time female. Emergence myths rarely feature male characters, and it's in counterpoint to like the male-dominated creation myths, like ex nihilo, which is the from nothing creation myths, which is kind of interesting. And then we have the earth diver myth. The earth diver myths are basically when a diver, usually a bird or an amphibian, is sent by a creator to plunge into the primordial ocean. So the water or the vapor that just kind of exists in the time before creation. The creator sends the bird or the amphibian down to bring up sand or mud to develop the terrestrial world. So yeah, basically they just send something down, they grab some mud and bring it to the top, and now we've got Earth. That is the Earth diver myth. So where does Turtle Island fall in all of this?
I don't know.
We're going to find out.
Okay.
Turtle Island is a version of an Earth diver myth. So first of all, Turtle Island is the name for Earth or just North America, used by some indigenous peoples in Canada and the United States.
Mm-hmm.
The Iroquois, this is their version. So there's a sky woman. She fell down to Earth when it was covered just with water, or sometimes it's called gray cloud sea, so just clouds like mist and vapor. So various animals tried to help her swim to the bottom of the ocean to bring back dirt to create land, but only the muskrat was successful. He succeeded in gathering dirt, which was then placed on the back of a turtle. This dirt began to multiply and also caused the turtle to grow bigger. The turtle continued to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and the dirt continued to multiply until it became a huge expanse of land on the turtle's back. And so that's how they got the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The Huron believed that at the time of creation, a tree broke and left a hole in the ground that led to the center of the Earth. The Sky Woman, known by the Huron as Atahenesik, fell from the sky, and before falling into the hole left by the tree, she was carried down on the wings of birds. After her fall, the birds brought her down to the hole and into water. A giant turtle emerged from the waters and carried her to the surface. She then gave birth to Earth Mother, who then gave birth to twin sons. There was an evil son who killed the Earth Mother by bursting out of her side. And then the good twin planted seeds into his mother's corpse, and from the seed grew maize, which is very important to the native indigenous people of America.
Mm-hmm.
The Seneca people believed that one day, the daughter of the chief of the people who lived in the sky became afflicted with a mysterious illness. The only cure recommended for her, which was revealed in a dream, was to lie beside a tree and to have it be dug up. So the people did that, but a man complained that the tree was their livelihood, so he kicked the girl through the hole. She ended up falling from the sky to a world of only water, but is rescued by a bird. A turtle offers to bear her on its shell, but asks where would be a definitive dwelling place for her. So, like, where do you want to go? She's like, I'm on your back, dude. And they decide to create land together. A toad dives into the depths of the sea, gets pieces of soil, brings it up, and puts it on the turtle back, and so on and so forth. So with the Ojibwe, the story of Turtle Island begins with a flooded earth. The creator there were people before, but he cleansed the earth, and so now it's flooded, so that he can begin anew, right? Some animals survived the flood, such as the loon, the muskrat, and the turtle. There's Nanabush, who is a supernatural being with the power to create life from others. He asks the animals to swim deep beneath the water and to collect soil so that it could be used to recreate the world. One by one, the animals tried, but one by one, they failed. The last animal that tried was the muskrat. They were underwater for a very long time, and finally they resurfaced, but they were dead. But in their hands was a ton of soil. And so while the journey took the muskrat's life, the creature did not die in vain, right? So Nanabush took the soil and put it on the turtle's back, and it became known as Turtle Island, the center of creation. So that's Turtle Island.
Cool.
Yeah. So
I feel like, wasn't there a turtle? Well, maybe, will you go over? Wasn't there a turtle in Avatar? Like a Turtle Island thing in Avatar?
I think there might have been. Yeah. Oh, there
and like
was.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. There was a turtle in Avatar. I'd never put that together, but yeah. And he like has to go underwater and like talk to the turtle, and the turtle's like is not first responsive, but Aang earns its trust or something. I forget. Yes, good memory. Forgot about that.
Well, I watched it more recently than
she
you
did watch it more recently. So that brings me to a creation myth from chaos. So I'm just going to do one from each.
Okay.
The Greek creation myth is actually from chaos. So in the beginning in Greek mythology, there is nothing but chaos. So basically emptiness or void. And it's actually believed that chaos was a god of some sort, a deity of some sort, who was careless and just lived in the dark. One day, Chaos decides like, okay, I'm going to create something out of nothing and create Nyx, which is like this big black bird. And together, Chaos and Nyx created Erebus, who's the god of the underworld. Erebus then took Nyx, who was his mother, and had sex with her. and they had 2 kids together, Aether and Hemera. Aether and Hemera mated with one another, and then from their union, we got Gaia, who shows up in Crosswords a lot, Gaia, that's Mother Earth. And who else? So Aether and Hemera had Gaia. Gaia had 3 siblings, Tartarus, Pontus, and Eros. So Gaia, Tartarus, Pontus, and Eros were the first deity to basically be born out of chaos. And it's at this point that the creation myth begins. So Gaia was originally like unable to have children, but because her sibling Eros was there, love, she was able to produce Uranus, which is the god of the sky. And then the god of the sky and the god of earth, so Uranus and Gaia had sex, and then they were able to give birth to all the Titans, and that is how Greek mythology started. So the Titans were all the gods before Zeus and Hera and Athena showed up. So that's where it all started.
Okay.
All thanks to Chaos, who one day decided, you know what, I'm just going to make a bird. And then Chaos and the bird bang, and then they make the god for the underworld, and now we've got Mount Olympus. Things kind of spiral out of control very quickly in the void, apparently. So now we're going to go to the world parent myth. And we're going to take a step into Norse mythology for this one. Velupsa is the poem that we're going to be focusing on. It's the best known poem of the poetic Edda, Edda, which is also in the crossword a ton, which is basically their Norse creation myth. Okay? So in the beginning, there was nothing but Ginnungagap, which is a void charged with magical force. In the north of Ginnungagap, there was a well that provided water to Yggdrasil, which is the world tree. Any water that wasn't taken up by the tree, however, would freeze because the northern part of the void was very cold. The frozen area is now known as Niflheim. These names might become familiar to you, Grace, because they're all in God of War. So the southern part of Ginnungagap, which is the void, grew hot and hot and hot and hotter and hotter and hotter, and eventually it became Muspelheim, which is the land of fire. A little bit of the warmth from Muspelheim reached Niflheim and made small droplets of water that thawed and dripped off the ice. When these fell, they sent up sparks. And so heat and fire began mixing in Ginnungagap, steam and mist swirling until it finally took the form of Ymir, the first giant. The mist also created Olma, which was an enormous primordial cow. Okay? So Ymir fed on the milk of Olma, while Olma licked the salt on the icy rocks of Niflheim. Where Olma the cow licked, the ice took shape and formed the first god named Buri. Buri had children, Bor and Bestla, and they had 3 children, Odin, Vili, and V. Odin, Vili, and V were like, you know what? Remember that big frost giant Ymir who's sucking on Olma's udders? He's evil, so we're going to go kill him. So they do. They go and kill him. And then they decided to use his body to make the world. His body became the surface of the land, while his blood was used to make the sea and the rivers. They used his bones and teeth to make mountains and fjords. The giant skull was placed over the world to make the sky. His brains became the clouds. No part of Ymir's corpse was wasted. The brothers captured sparks that flew out from Muspelheim and placed them in the sky. They were the sun and the moon and the stars. And then they used Ymir's eyebrows to make a protective wall to encircle their brand new land. And then they called the world Midgard, which means middle yard, because they placed it in the center of the world tree, Yggdrasil. And from that, they carved Ask and Embla, the first man and woman, from the trees of Midgard. And so that's how the people of Norway came about.
Look at that.
And all the Vikings.
I like that one. That one's cool.
I like that one too. It's also nice because like I am familiar with some of the names because of God of War. And I'm also very excited for God of War to come out. The new one.
They say video games don't teach you anything.
They do. They teach you lots of stuff. They do. So that brings me to the Emergence Myth. I apologize in advance for butchered pronunciation. Okay. So the Emergence Myth we're going to be focusing on is Dene Bahane, which is the Navajo creation myth. It basically begins with a holy wind being created, and it brings purpose to the holy people. All of the things that existed in this space and time were spiritually there, but not physically there. So now we're in the first or dark world, which is a small and centered. It's on an island. It floats in the middle of 4 seas, right? The inhabitants of the first world were the holy people, 2 coyotes, the 4 rulers of the 4 seas, and mist beings and various insects and bat people. They all lived in the first world, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The first woman and man came into existence here because they just did. And then the various beings on the first world started fighting with one another and left. They decided to leave the first world behind, and they flew out over the open sea. And in doing so, they journeyed to the second world. So if you remember, Emergence is the tale where the creation of our world comes like from a metamorphosis, like like the beings will travel through many worlds and change over time until finally landing in our world. So they start in the first world or the dark world, and now they're on to the second world, which is also called the blue world. And there inhabited blue-gray furred mammals and various birds. The beings from the first world offended like what is called the swallow chief that lived on the second world. And so the swallow chief asked them to leave. So first man created a wand that allowed people to walk upon it to the next world, which was to the south. So they make it to the third world, or the yellow world, where there were 2 rivers that formed a cross, and there were sacred mountains, but there was no sun. And this time it was not discord among the people that drove them away, but there was a massive flood caused by when a coyote stole 2 children of one of the gods living on this island. Mm-hmm. So they were forced to flee. So then they fled to the fourth or white world, and it was covered in water, and there were monsters living there. They reformed the soil into sacred mountains. First man, first woman, and the holy people created the sun, moon, and seasons and stars. And it was here that true death came into existence via a coyote tossing a stone into a lake and declaring that if it sank, then the dead would go back to the previous world. So through traveling through all these worlds, they finally landed here, and this world was created. So that's the Emergence Myth. And of course, we're going to end with the ex nihilo myth, and I'm going to keep it really simple because the most famous is the Genesis creation story. And it's part of, Judaism, Christianity. And there's a time called pre-creation where there is just a void and God. And then one day God is like, I'm going to create the earth. And he does. And he creates the heavens and the earth over 6 days. And over these 6 days, he creates light, dark, waters, earth, trees, plants, animals, and people. And that is creation myths.
And that's it. That's all. Really quick, 6 days.
That's it, 6 days. That's all it takes is 6 days to create a world. That's
efficient.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of feels like it'd be more fun to travel through multiple worlds.
What do you mean?
Like the Navajo story.
Yeah.
But hey.
Well, maybe he's not interested in having fun.
He's not interested in having fun, but he was interested in creating light. He said, let there be light, and there was.
And there was. Simple as that.
And that's how it works, folks.
All right, cool. Very interesting. I love reading creation stories that are from all different cultures and then finding the similarities. It's so cool that people that probably didn't even know that the others existed all kind of had similar. We talked about this in another episode, not just with creation stories, just there's a name
myth
for it.
Myth in general.
Yeah. So many different cultures have very similar folklore.
Yes. And there's so many really interesting creation myths that I could have talked about, but I tried to pick examples of each type of story that were the most clear examples of those versions of creation stories. Because sometimes there's so many different versions of a single culture's creation myth that I was like, this could be Emergence. This could be World Parent, depending on which story that I choose. So I was trying to find ones that really fit into these specific categories. And it's kind of hard to categorize these things, I find, which is probably what religious scholars talk about when they're doing their jobs.
Yeah,
but
you
I
just
hope
need to go to school for like 8 years and study
yeah,
religious doctrine.
I hope this whet the appetite for some folks out there.
It does comfort me to think that I am on the back of a turtle.
I love that for us. Yeah.
My topic comes from the Monday New York Times puzzle by Emily Rourke. 53 down, Java without the jolt.
Decaf?
Decaf.
Are you talking about coffee?
Not really.
Okay.
I'm talking about decaf specifically and kind of how it came about because it's interesting and just a trigger warning. I am talking about Nazis. It's not going to get like super violent or anything, but that's where this is going. So.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Good
so
fun.
The year is 1902.
Okay.
We're in Germany. A man named Ludwig Roselius' father, who worked in the coffee industry, had just died at the young age of 59. His doctor told Ludwig that it was because he drank too much coffee and it was the caffeine that killed him. So Ludwig went off on a mission to take the caffeine out of coffee.
Damn, okay.
And I got most of this information from an article on atlasobscura.com called Why the Nazi Party Loved Decaf Coffee by Matthew Sedeka.
Okay.
So the first method to decaffeinate coffee that Ludwig discovered was found by accident. So he had received a shipment of coffee beans that had been submerged in salt water. Ludwig noticed that the caffeine content had been reduced and that the coffee tasted pretty much the same aside from the added saltiness. But this basically made him realize that caffeine was water soluble, and if he could soak coffee beans in water, he could use some other solution to bond to the caffeine and extract it. And that's
interesting.
Essentially how decaf is made today. They are trying to like find a new coffee bean plant that doesn't have any caffeine in it, but they haven't been able to figure it out. But decaf still has some traces of caffeine. BT dubs. It has like 97% of caffeine removed.
Okay.
So like if you absolutely cannot have any caffeine, you still couldn't drink decaf coffee.
Got it.
But anyways, that's how Ludwig figured it out, the water soluble thing, etc. So he brought decaf coffee to Germany under the name Kaffeehag in 1905, spelled Kaffee. This spread throughout Europe, and it may be best known for its French branch called Sanka, which is a contraction for the French phrase for sans caffeine. But in the 1920s and 30s, Ludwig started marketing his decaf coffee to the Weimar Republic's health and fitness craze. So at the time, there was a health movement called Life Reform that advocated for things like nudism and organic farming, but they were also against stimulants like refined sugar, high-proof alcohol, tobacco, meat, and caffeine. This movement influenced the public health policy of the Nazi regime. So Jeffrey Cox, the author of The State of Health, Illness in Nazi Germany, says that Nazis, quote, earnestly believed that it was their duty and their responsibility not only to protect health of individual Germans, but the health of the entire German people as a biological racial entity. And this, of course, excluded Jews and other non-Aryans, as well as homosexuals and the sick. The 1941 Hitler Youth Handbook says something like, quote, for the young people at least, caffeine was a poison in every form and in every strength. So there was like this huge push to be healthy, to keep, the Aryan race healthy, and that included not drinking caffeine. So decaf became like hugely popular in Nazi Germany. But was Kaffeehag a Nazi company? Historian Gideon Ruveni writes in his book Consumer Culture and the Making of Modern Jewish Identity that Kaffeehag advertised its decaffeinated coffee as kosher, and that Ludwig declared in 1932 that anyone who drinks Kaffeehag is dear and important to us. Which political affiliation or creed he is for us completely irrelevant, which I don't really think you can say if Nazis are drinking, are your main
Was
customers.
That
you can say it's irrelevant, so take that with a grain of salt.
Right.
Another, S. Jonathan Wyson, a professor of history at Southern Illinois University, wrote a book called Creating a Nazi Marketplace, which tracked the relationship between Kaffeehag, I mispronounce it differently every time, and the Nazi regime. And his research found at a 1937 festival that celebrated the accomplishments of the Nazi people, over a dozen cantinas served decaf coffee, and Kaffeehag also created and served chocolate milk called Kaba that was very popular among Hitler Youth. They served it to 42,000 Hitler Youth members at the Nuremberg Rally in 1936. Wiesen writes, quote, Haig's attention to health, visual beauty, mass persuasion, and Nordic philosophy, combined with appeals to the public good, resonated especially loudly in a state devoted to economic and, above all, racial purity. So yeah, that's decaf coffee in Nazi Germany. Ironically, the way that Ludwig's company processed decaffeinated beans left trace amounts of benzene, which is a potentially toxic hydrocarbon, in the drink. So they thought caffeine was poison, but they were actually drinking real poison, and decaf is made differently now, so there's no benzene anymore. Now there's a little note of irony. Also, kind of ironically, Norman Ohler writes in his book, Blitzed, Drugs in Nazi Germany, that Nazis encouraged Aryan people to snack on meth-spiked chocolate to spike productivity. Ohler writes, quote, the recommendation was to eat between 3 and 9 of these chocolates with the indication that they were, unlike caffeine, perfectly safe.
Funny.
So, yes. Despite this clear relationship, decaf coffee never really had like a negative global reputation. I feel like most people don't associate it with
I have no
Nazi
idea.
Germany. General Goods bought the instant decaf coffee brand in 1932, and after the war, sales soared. Today, decaf makes up 12% of total coffee consumption. So that's that. But let's talk about another beverage that has Nazi ties.
Okay.
This is from an article on allthat'sinteresting.com by Gabe Paoletti, checked by John Kurowski, called 7 Brands with Nazi Ties That We All Use. I'm only talking about one. Maybe I'll link this article in the description. But I'm going to talk about Coca-Cola.
I thought you would.
Yes. So in 1933, Coca-Cola sales in Germany were booming. During the 1936 Berlin Olympic Games, Coca-Cola made sure that all attendants had all the Coke that they could want. So it was huge. However, later that year, the Nazi government started to limit imports from foreign nations, and this included Coca-Cola syrup. We all know Coca-Cola has, their special syrup. McDonald's has like
their special,
specialer kind. But the president of Coca-Cola pleaded with the Nazi regime to give them an exception, and they did for a little bit until 1937, when a German exec at a rival soda company spotted a Coke bottle that had writing on it that said it was kosher. So they used this as evidence, quote unquote, that Coca-Cola was secretly run by a Jewish person. So that was kind of being spread. But the Coca-Cola German exec, Max Keith, who comes up a lot, he tried to counteract this by heavily branding Coca-Cola in Germany as pro-Nazi, specifically to the Nazi youth. In 1940, he was nervous that the Coke syrup imports would again be restricted, so he started to create a new syrup from local ingredients that they could use as a backup in case they couldn't get Coke anymore. Mm-hmm. So he did put together syrup made out of local ingredients that you could find in Germany. He asked people at his company to use their imagination to come up with a name for this new drink, and the German word for imagination is fantasy, and that's where Fanta came from. So they eventually did run out of Coke because they couldn't import the syrup anymore, and they started creating and selling Fanta, and it was a huge hit. The German Coca-Cola branch was ousted by the U.S. military for being Nazi collaborators, but after the war, they reopened and reinstated Max Keith as the leader. And there's some things to say Max Keith did not join the Nazi regime, or did not become a Nazi, even though he was pressured to. Other people say it was more complicated than that, so that's the whole. Can't get into that now.
Not today.
But something kind of interesting is that, well, not interesting. I feel like we were talking about marketing mistakes the other day and what people are thinking. But Coke came out with a 75th Fanta anniversary campaign in 2015 in Germany, and the video referenced that there was a Coke syrup shortage in Germany in 1940, and that's how Fanta came about. And you can find this commercial on YouTube. It's very upbeat. The commercial is 75 years ago, resources for our beloved Coke were scarce. Didn't say why, and then it said, quote, we are bringing back the feeling of the good old times. So,
oh dear.
There was huge backlash, as you can expect, and Coke's official statement is this, quote, Fanta was invented in Germany during the Second World War, but the 75-year-old brand had no association with Hitler or the Nazi Party. Maybe, Nazis didn't create Fanta, but it still is part of the history of why Fanta was created.
Oh, for sure. It's like, okay, instead of Coca-Cola being like, we just won't be in Germany. Yeah. They begged to be in Germany. Mm-hmm. And then they did lots of things to stay relevant in Germany throughout World War II. Mm-hmm. Like inventing a new soda, for instance. Mm-hmm. To make money. Money.
All about money. So yeah, that's all I got. Something to think about.
Okay.
Next time you have decaf or Fanta or Coke, for that matter.
I don't drink Fanta. Mm-hmm. Don't you wanna Fanta? Well, no, I don't wanna.
Fanta's like huge in Europe, so I do have it when I'm in Europe. I never knew. I mean, I knew it was a Coke product. Obviously, I didn't know about that. Yeah. But I feel like it's much more popular in Europe. Like it's always on restaurant menus.
Right.
Here, I feel like most restaurants don't carry Fanta, but in Europe, they all, because it comes in like the little glass bottles.
Yeah.
But this is another unrelated Fanta tidbit, is that like orange Fanta in Europe looks like lemonade almost. Looks like apple juice, actually. And I think one of the ingredients in the syrup is made by something with apples. But in the US, they were like, no one's going to know this is orange flavored. And that's why orange Fanta in the US is like neon colored, because Americans need that to know. But I've heard of Europeans be like, what's up with your Fanta in the US? Why is it like bright
Sorry,
colors?
We're idiots. It's okay.
Yeah.
Wow. The more you know. That's actually really interesting. I didn't know that about the decaf thing. And then,
yeah.
Oh. I don't drink decaf, so.
I don't really drink coffee that much, so.
Must be nice.
Yeah. I just wake up in the morning with a nice cold glass of water. I really do.
She's so perky.
I'm not perky, but that's what I crave in the morning. Ice cold water.
I try to make sure I have 2 cups of water before I have even a single cup of coffee. The key word here, though, is try.
You must be peeing a lot. No offense. That's too personal.
It is personal, but my cups aren't big. You know, they're like mason
2 shot
jars.
glasses of water.
2 shot glasses. 2 thimblefuls. Just a thimbleful.
Well, those were our topics today.
I gotta go get a thimbleful of water. Those were, in fact, our topics, and I hope that spark some curiosity in our listeners, because, you know, as always, we just want you to keep curious out there.
Beautiful. That was a great segue.
Thank you.
If you want to talk to us, you can find us on Twitter at The Good Eve Girls.
Or Instagram at The Good Evening Girls.
Or TikTok at The Good Eve Girls.
Come on by. Because, yeah, we're having lots of fun. And I guess that's all. I have no more segues in me. I've got nothing left.
That's fair. Yeah. Like I said, we are a little energy burnt
Drained.
out. Yeah.
Yes.
From yesterday. But it was nice hanging out with you all, kind of. I feel like we're hanging out with our listeners, even though
we are. I feel like I have an audience that I'm on stage.
But we will see y'all next week.
We will. Same place and same time. All right, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.